about it slightly differently. So the soul, as you know, when astrologers drew a map of a person's soul, a chiaroscope, they drew, as nearly as they knew it, a picture of the universe as focused upon the time and place of that individual's birth. Well, that is astrology, I think, is a highly unreliable science for practical affairs. But it did express in a kind of mythological image very beautifully the truth that everyone is the cosmos centered in the place that you call here and now. But you see, when you don't know that, and you think that the external world is foreign to you, instead of being, as it were, your better half, I mean, imagine that. It's so. I know one difficulty that people have in assimilating this idea is that what happens to me when I'm unconscious? See, I go to sleep at night, and if I sleep soundly and don't have any dreams, I wake up at the same moment I went to sleep. You know, there just wasn't any interval, only I feel different when I wake up. Either I have a hangover or I feel refreshed. And, but the interim just wasn't there. And you think if it wasn't there, then, but there was I, open to everybody else's inspection, while I was lying in bed. Now, the same sort of situation bothers people about death. Because if you come to an end, and after death, there is unconsciousness. But you see, unconsciousness doesn't last any time. It may from somebody else's point of view. But actually, there is no such thing as experiencing being unconscious. But in the same way that you are unconscious of the way your, say, pituitary gland is functioning at this moment, or unconscious of the structure of small capillaries inside your body, and yet they're working, even though you don't know anything about it, consciously. So in just exactly that way, your extended body, namely the cosmos, goes on when you're dead in the same way that your organic body goes on when you're asleep. And as when you wake up, your organic body restores its particular local consciousness, so after all of us die, the big organic body, which is the cosmos, waves lives somewhere else. And they are us. By us, I mean the real self, the total cosmos, appearing all over again and becoming conscious once more. And when it happens, do you know what it'll feel like? It'll feel exactly like it felt when you were born. And whether you have, instead of eyes, long tentacles of some kind, or whether you have an antenna on top of your head or non-head, whether you have 100 legs or 2, you will see yourself as a human being. After all, mice and cats look human to each other. They think we look very odd. We're some kind of monster because we're a different species. But all species look human to each other because what the word human really means is the center place. Wherever anything looks out from is, from its point of view, the human place. And you must also be very respectful to creatures because although you may think that they're not very cultured, they have a culture which is, from their standpoint, as refined as ours. They know, cats, for example, know that there are more and less refined cats. I've just been sitting on Henry Denison's patio listening to a mockingbird. And that thing has a tremendous culture. The things it can do with its voice. And there's no apparent reason for all that. It's just sitting there on the TV antenna, enjoying the afternoon. It doesn't seem to be a mating call. No mate comes around. It doesn't seem to be threatening anybody. It's just happy. And it's up there doing its stuff and making this gorgeously complex music. And it's much more complex than we can hear. There are things in the qualities of the voice, subtle, tiny changes, that are perfectly fascinating. This creature is unencumbered with clothes. In other words, we judge people's culture to such a large extent by their shopping. I was talking about that this morning, you know. By they go around and acquire things and have them all around, and that's the human way of showing off. But other creatures do it in a different way. They would, from their point of view, criticize us as being messy, as having all these things we have to dangle on ourselves and put on jewels and things and whatnot. And they would say, well, that's not poor humans. They have to do that because they have such ugly bodies. They look like potatoes underneath their skins. And we have all these lovely feathers, and the fish have such beautiful colors on them, and they live in the water. One of the most intelligent creatures on earth is the dolphin. And the dolphin, many, many thousands of years ago, was a land animal. But when it saw what human beings were doing and the direction a high intelligence was taking on land, they all decided to go back into the water. Because in the water, there's plenty of food. You don't have to hunt too energetically. You're never liable to run into a famine. And you don't have to be encumbered with houses and clothes. And so you don't have to work. So dolphins spend most of their time playing. They like, for example, to pick up with a human ship. And then the ship makes a wake, and so they set their tail at an exact angle of 26.5 degrees or something. And the ship pushes them along. Well, they can actually swim faster than the ship goes, but they don't want to work. And they laugh, they play, they make circles around the ship, they do all sorts of things because that's their way of life. And they're very, very sensible people. I've absolutely renounced eating dolphins because I feel it's cannibalism. The dolphin, in other words, knows how to get with it. And you see, this is the thing that these three religious approaches only find at the end of the line. Now, is it possible that there could be a new kind of religious approach in which heaven says to earth, I really do love you, with no ifs and buts? They say in Christianity, God so loved the world, but there's always a but after it. But the world has fallen away from God, and he loves it in the sense of a kindly but stern father who says, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, and has this sort of, I don't know, The whole attitude, you see, is one of